And we're live.
Indeed, we are.
Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to another awesome episode of Link Up Leaders, where today we have one of the most exciting guests that I have personally known and I can call a great friend for the past couple of years, Kristina Mertens. Kristina, how are you doing?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. This works really well. Hi, guys. I'm doing very well. I'm super happy to be here today. How are you guys?
Great. Very excited. I know Francois has
Good.
known you for a long time, but we just met this morning, so this is going to be all
That's
brand new
good.
information for me. But I'm
But I
so
already
excited.
stalked you on LinkedIn, so
Yes, me too.
Oh, you saw her, the viewed your profile on.
yeah, no, like just everything. I see Lisa. I like I'm a
There you go. There you go. Friends helping friends.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what it's about.
But yeah, no, as Lisa said, we have known each other for a while, for a few years now, at least. I think since 2018?
Yeah, I think
And that
so.
was also when Sermando first started, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It was a little bit over 2 years ago. Yeah, summer of 2018. And yeah, Noviland was one of our first network members. So we have a very special relationship to this company and you guys.
Yeah. No, it was exciting. I remember when you first described it to me, I think it was sort of like the Yelp for Amazon service providers.
Yeah.
Has that stayed true to sort of what we first talked about?
Not at all, actually. So yeah, in the beginning, I advertised it as like the yellow pages for Amazon services, but we evolved a lot from that. So basically, what we're doing now is we provide all the service providers with their own landing pages, which are basically like mini websites. So it's not just you go to the category and you have like 100 names, but you can really see at a glance, like, what is this company doing? Which marketplaces do they have experiences with which languages do they speak, and so on and so forth. And we added a matching service. I think it was like a year ago, a little bit less. And this just like went through the roof because people are so lazy. They don't want to look they don't want to look for services for themselves. And also, I get it because it can feel a little bit overwhelming. Let's say you're looking for a full service agency and you have like this massive number of providers and you don't even know where to start. And I mean, I think our directory is a great way of like comparing different services pretty easily. But obviously, it's much easier to just fill out a form and say, hey guys, I'm looking for an agency. This is the amount of revenue that I'm making right now. These are my requirements. Can you help me out? So we get the lead. And obviously, I mean, I know our network like by heart. So when I get a matching inquiry, usually at an instant, I'm like, okay, this is the perfect match. And then I will introduce the seller and service provider. And usually both sides are very happy.
Good.
Yeah, no, it's so kind of, I guess, holding true to it, more of like a Cupid, I guess, for service providers and
Yeah, that's sort of my nickname now.
the Cupid matchmaker.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's something that I think the Amazon community definitely needs. And
Yes.
just in the past 2 years, I've seen you guys grow so much, which is what I'm definitely excited for. Anyone that I see, I recommend. I think I might have got kicked out of a few of the Amazon groups already from recommending you guys so much. Just because it is something that no one else has, right? Everyone can try to go off of word of mouth, and I'm not going to name any names, but there is a freight forwarder out there, for example. Should I talk about? Yeah, we'll talk about it. Why not?
Just don't name drop.
I won't name names, but they're in the Facebook groups. It looked like they were getting some amazing reviews. They had a few thousand people that liked their page on Facebook. But now all of a sudden, all you see are people that can't get a hold of them. And it's like they're missing thousands of dollars worth of cargo. And they don't have their point of contact. They used to be partnered with a fairly respectable QC company, it seems like. And now it's like they fell off the face of the earth. And so I don't know if they're on Sermando yet, but for something like that, what would I guess you do if you heard something? If you heard something like that, what would you do from the Sermando angle?
So first of all the service providers that come on board, are vetted by us. So right from the start, we make sure that there are no scammers on our side. I mean, obviously, you can't really prevent companies that offer a bad service from entering Zalando, but this is why we have established a review system. So the process is like this. The service provider signs up, and then we will check all the credentials, call the phone number, see if the support is replying, to see like, hey, is the company information legit? Because especially, as you guys know, in the logistics sector, there are, for example, a lot of sourcing agents that people Venmo like thousands of dollars to,
Right.
and then they never hear back from them. So this is the first step. We make sure, okay, this is a real company. There are real people behind it. Second of all, we have a review system where every seller can submit reviews if they have worked with that company before. And it's not like with, I don't know, Yelp or Proven Expert that people can just write a review and that's it. Because as you know, a lot of companies like to give themselves their own review.
Oh yeah.
But we actually vet every single review on Zalando. So before any comment or review gets approved, they will receive an email from me personally, where I ask them to provide proof of cooperation. So I need to see a contract or at least an email correspondence where I can see, okay, they work together. Obviously, they can blacken out all irrelevant sections, but I need to see the proof like, okay, they work together. This is first of all to prevent that companies give themselves 5-star reviews, and also that like an agency gives another agency a bad review, so they perform less well on Zalando. So it's also to protect the service providers. And I just think that with like an honest and transparent like review system, you can just provide a much better experience for both sides. So yeah, that's what we stick to.
That's really smart, and especially making sure that these businesses that are writing the reviews have actually done business with whoever they're writing a review on,
Yes.
like good, bad, or whatever. Because there's not even to do with like e-commerce or supply chain, just like looking at apartments. I moved later last year, and there were negative reviews on these complexes that were like, I'm an Uber driver and I dropped somebody off and the gate wasn't working, so this apartment complex is unsafe. It's like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
But like confirming not only the legitimacy of the business that's writing it, and then saying, okay, you guys actually like had something together. It really is like a matchmaker. Like, I can tell you this is a real person and they're not a catfish, but whether or not you like them or they're good is, yet to be determined. But yeah, that's a really cool model that you guys have. So then,
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. Also, what we're doing sometimes is that when a person is leaving a review and they had a bad experience with the service provider, I will get in touch with the service provider and say, hey, here's a client that has this problem with your service. Maybe you missed their support inquiry or whatever. I will ask them if they are ready to resolve this issue with you. And then I will just write an email and say, hey, person A, here's your contact person at the company that you left a review for. Maybe you can figure this out. And it already happened like a lot of times where the seller eventually decided to either withdraw the review or just rewrite it. Like, hey, I had this issue, but eventually it got resolved. So I like that part, and so on and so forth. So I think this should be the ultimate goal, right? Not just writing revenge reviews, but also to resolve the issue in the first place.
Absolutely.
Well, that's interesting. The model itself, it's a model I love, but it's almost so we just had Norm on, and he was talking a lot about like brand evangelists and influencers and those that really they'll go above and beyond for your services. And so on both sides, whether it's negative or positive, I feel like this added step of proof is kind of like, hey, I'm not only leaving them a review, but I'm actually going to go above and beyond. So it's either like I had a really bad experience or I had a really good experience, because there's that added layer, right? There's that added layer of, okay, now I have to take a screenshot of an email or of a contract. And I could block it all out. But even if I block it all out, now I have to do an added step. So like go on Photoshop or go on a Adobe, whatever they use on there, and block out all the sensitive information. Yeah, Adobe Pro or something, whatever it's called. But it's something I have never, at least personally, I've never seen someone else do, which is I feel like just making reviews honest. And this is where, you can have the 1 to 5 star, but like if you see a 2-star, that's kind of hard to know. That's like, did you have a bad review, or like, did you have a bad experience, or did they just like Amazon? A lot of times I'll see someone say, oh, I got it and it wasn't on time. And well, like that's Amazon's fault. That's not my fault. You had a great product.
Exactly.
Is that something that Sermondo advertises? Like, hey, anyone that's leaving a review is, going above and beyond to say that they had a really bad or a really good experience. Because I feel like that is one piece that I personally, as someone that is looking at reviews, appreciate. And I'm like, wow, that person really feels this way, because I personally wouldn't do it unless I had that really bad experience or that really good experience.
I think we never really included it in our advertising, but now that you mention it, it's a USP. I mean, I expect that from other websites as well, but the reality is basically no one does it, because I have to admit, it's a lot of manual work, obviously reaching out to all of these people and also personalizing those messages for their review authentications. But I think like that extra step is what makes it special. And obviously, we would have, like, I would say at least 200 more reviews on Sermondo for service providers, which would also help us because people would see that people use it more maybe. But I decided to not publish it until I have that proof. But yeah, so far I don't think that, I mentioned it in a few podcasts, but we don't really advertise it that much. But it's actually a good point to think of.
Yeah, just from like the review perspective, again, just someone that I will never leave a review unless it is the worst experience I have. And I treat, tipping at restaurants very similarly. I always do a standard 30% tip. And if it's a really bad experience, I'll leave them like a 15 or 20% tip.
Yeah.
It's still a decent tip. But internally, I'm like, God, that really sucked.
I hope you learned your lesson.
Yeah, like I want you to know. And this is funny. My girlfriend Kate, she had a bad experience with, I think it was a nail salon, and they like just put one nail on that was much longer than the other ones. They refused to trim it down. And she was walking around with it. And I'm like, you're telling me all these things, and I'm hearing it. I'm here to listen, right? I'm here to hear how shitty they did of a job. But what can you do about it? If they're not going to do anything about it, leave them a review. And immediately the next day they reached back out. They're like, hey, we'd like you to take down the things that they shouldn't do, but they're actually like trying to follow up with it. And that's something that I love about Sermondo. It's something I think you should definitely advertise. It's someone who's going above and beyond to leave their thoughts, their opinions. It's already a lot that they do it like, when they're doing it naturally. But when you're vetting it, when you have to provide all this extra information, and don't worry, Kristina, I'm not going to charge you for my time here. It's completely free of charge, but something that, again, from the reviewer perspective, it is something that's valuable.
All right. Yeah, I guess we have to include it more. There are a lot of funny stories. Like I see ABC, let's just call it ABC companies submitted their listing on Sermondo. Like, okay, yeah, that's cool. So I check them out, check the credentials, and then I get another notification like, there's a new review for ABC company. I'm like, well, that was fast. And then sometimes like they use their own company email. Like it's an Andrew at 123 company. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not a real review. Like I can publish it. Yeah. What were you thinking?
Didn't even try.
Yeah, did you even try? Just make a fake email.
At least make a fake email.
At least, yeah.
I think Amazon actually does this with the verified reviewer program. That's another thing. Maybe you said you would have 200 extra ones. Maybe you have like a verified one and then an unverified one, or more. Yeah, more than two, I'm sure. Yeah. I know I recommend everyone, and people have had some really bad experiences with a few companies. But in those instances, if someone is leaving a lot of bad reviews for a company, I guess, I know you said you would reach out to them, but is there a point that they should realize, like, hey, we're about to be kicked off of Sermondo? And it's actually a pretty big deal. Sermondo, again, is one of the only platforms that does this, that holds service providers true to their nature, because no one else does it. all you have is Facebook groups that talk recommendations. So it's actually a really big deal to be kicked off Sermondo. Is there a certain point or a cutoff that you would say, hey, like, we can't list you anymore?
I think this only happened once so far with a freight forwarding company, because they stopped responding to clients. So we got a few inquiries like, hey, can you help me get in touch with that company? So I tried, and they also didn't respond to us anymore. And so I was like, okay, this is something that we cannot promote on Sermondo. So yeah, eventually we had to take their listing down. But I think this was really the only time that ever happened. Like, but if I would see that a lot of people complain about a service, then obviously I would reach out to the company and say, yo, what's up? Like, why are all these people complaining? What you gonna do about it? And when they don't respond to me, or they can't present me with a plan how to make the clients happy, then I'm like, okay, then I'm sorry, but then I can't give you leads with a good feeling anymore, because I know that you will not treat them well. And I want the clients that come to us and trust us to be treated the same way from the service provider as we treat them. So yeah, that's our standard.
Exactly. We'll have to talk after the pod and get the name of that freight forwarder and see if it aligns with what we're seeing.
We might have
Probably
the same one.
Might be the same one.
Sounds like a very specific company that we've just been seeing everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep prying deep into your model. I'd love to, because when we talked initially, I love the initiative that you and Tobias had, and how you guys met even, and how you guys brought this idea together. So can you talk a little bit more about like the background, how you got to even, where Sermondo first started and how you guys first met? Because I found it fascinating. It's kind of like a classic Silicon Valley tale, actually.
I gotta say, sometimes I'm still confused where I'm at right now.
Where you
Because
went,
I
right?
never had anything to do with like Amazon, and I never wanted to be self-employed. I always had this idea of me, I don't know, working at McKinsey, flying around the world, be a consultant or whatever. But Toby, so I would say, is he my co-founder? I would say he's the founder, because he had the idea and he already built the website when I entered this whole project. So he was an Amazon seller himself for a long time. First it was eBay, then was Amazon, and he was pretty successful doing it. But he had some really bad experiences with certain service providers here in Germany. He was only selling on Amazon Germany. One example was he was working with this 3PL, and they promised him the world, like, oh yeah, we have the fastest delivery times, lowest cost, whatever. And then it took them like a couple of weeks to process the next shipments. So he went out of stock, like his listings went down, his sales went down. And at some point he was like, why is there no solution to this? Like, I have to go on Facebook groups and ask people that I've never met for their recommendations. And obviously it could be the cousin, brother, the owner himself recommending himself. And then he had the idea for Sermondo, because he knew about this website called Proven Expert, where you can find like business consultants in general. And he was like, okay, this would be like a cool idea for the whole Amazon community. And because he was always really keen with online marketing in general, building websites, search engine optimization, he just said, okay, I'm going to build this. But I have to say, he's more of an introvert, and I don't know if people can tell, but I'm more of an extrovert. So he needed someone to manage partnerships and reaching out to people. And I also love writing. I write a lot for a blog, most of the content. And then he asked me like, hey, I have this project going on. Do you want to join? Because I've actually known Toby since, I think now it's maybe 10, 11 years. And we haven't been that close for a long time, but we eventually reconnected when I was 18. Now I'm 25, so that was 7 years ago. And he knew that I was in university studying global business administration and global business management. And then he was like, hey, I know you're almost done with university. Would you like to make this project happen? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I still had another job. I was like, yeah, I mean, what could possibly go wrong, you know? Yeah, then we negotiated the partnership terms, and then I basically did the same as Lisa is doing now. I started building my network, especially internationally on LinkedIn at first, and started onboarding all the service providers for free in the beginning, because you have this classic platform problem. Like, sellers won't use Zalando when you have no service providers. Service providers don't want to pay for Zalando when there are no sellers that use it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, the first couple of service providers we listed for free, and then we could see that people really like the idea and that it gets accepted so much in the community. And we started building traffic, and then more and more service providers came. And yeah, now we're here. I think now we have like over 400 service providers, and bringing out fresh content every week, trying to educate people on how to find a certain service provider, which questions they should ask in an interview, and so on and so forth. And so far, so good. Toby and I are still best friends. So I know that it sometimes doesn't work out when like friends become business partners, but we're like yin and yang. So yeah, that works out pretty well.
Good.
No,
Yeah, that's all you
awesome.
can ask for, is like to still be friends at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I know, but you did a lot more marketing than just content. From what I remember, you were also going to, I think it was trade shows and
Oh, yeah.
a few events, right? Were you sort of doing this guerrilla marketing form, I guess, of marketing, and just going out there and just handing things out? Or I guess, how did you initially start getting some of these Amazon sellers onto Zalando?
I don't even know about the seller part. I was really focusing on the service providers first, and because as I said, we're based in Germany, and I think like 55% of our traffic comes from the US, and we have a lot of US service providers and sellers using Zalando. So I had to find like a virtual way first to reach out to them, which was like LinkedIn was the best option. And I'm such a huge fan of this platform. I talked about this on the Branded by Women Summit, how to build a network. And LinkedIn is so great because you can just connect with like the CEO or the founder, and it's not like super formal, and where you first have to establish, oh, is this the right tone? But you just say, hi Ryan, I've seen that you offer XYZ services, let's hop on a call. And they're like, hi Kristina, yeah, sure. And then by
Is that how I
starting out
sounded? Oh God.
yeah, this was actually, I was citing our conversation. No, and I think when you have like the first connections are the hardest, and then you just get introduced by the people that you have. Like I don't know, I said I'm looking for someone who can do listing translations, and I met Jana from Royalty Translations, and like we really get along really well, also on a friendship level, I would say, even though I've never seen her in real life, which feels kind of weird. But she has such a huge network of great people. So whenever I was like, okay, I'm looking for this and that service, she was like, oh, I have the perfect person. And then suddenly, like, it all comes together. And then obviously when we went to those shows, for example, one in Tel Aviv, or a lot of also like online and virtual summits, you just sort of have your foot in the door already, because you know a few people, even if it's only like 2 people that you already know, like this can have such a huge impact if you're at those events. So yeah, this is really how it went from there, I think.
Yeah. I mean, put yourself out there, and the Branded by Woman. I think Lisa, you joined in on that, didn't you?
I tried to. I registered and I tried to join in, but then we were launching this and had so much else going on. But I did get to watch 1 or 2 of the sessions.
So much value.
There's so much. I got to see Isabella Hamilton's, and Angela's. Was that her name? Okay, yeah. I got to see those too. But I really wanted to see yours, and I really wanted to see Cassandra Craven's, because
she's the best.
2 of my favorite women, like in this whole industry. It's Ask Francois. I like fangirl about both of you guys. It's so strange.
It's true.
Yeah, but Anyway.
Goes in both directions, though.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not sure if that's like legal for me to do, but I can send you my recording. I still have it.
There you go.
I would love that.
Well, we're gonna have to bleep that part out.
I'll edit it.
Who runs it? Danny. He's gonna reach out to
Danny
us.
runs it.
The one time he reaches out to us, he'll tell us, "Hey, stop doing this stuff. Stop building these connections." But no, that's awesome. And I mean, someone that I know networks a ton are both you and Lisa. I know you guys are always on LinkedIn, but going back to Sermando a little bit more, is there any service providers that, because I know you manually review all of them, you connect them together. Are there any service providers or sectors, I guess is a better way to put it, any sectors that a lot of people are just always looking for? Because I feel like something like, keyword research, Jungle Scout and Helium 10, there's only a few of them, and they kind of have that space like locked down. But I would imagine like PPC agencies, they're everywhere. I mean, you see, I personally see like 20 different ads every day, anytime that I'm on YouTube or, just browsing the web. Are there any like industries or sectors that people always are looking for recommendations?
I mean, I would say like all the categories are in pretty high demand, but like I think we get the most inquiries for full service agencies. So brands that just have a presence somewhere else and say, okay, we know we have to be on Amazon, but we don't really like doing that. So please do all Amazon related things and we will give you money for that. So this is like one of the most popular categories. And unfortunately, suspension services. Like I get at least like every day we get inquiries from people who got suspended for something. I was actually talking about this with Toby before because we have just published an SEO guide, and then we were thinking about like, hey, do you think that a post about black hat tactics would rank well too? And I was like, maybe we could write some and then like sprinkle in there like, hey, if you're looking for a suspension expert, here we are. Because that's unfortunately what a lot of people still do is they try certain hacks they've seen somewhere, or they steal content, they steal images. Like it sounds stupid, but I think as a new seller, everything can be so intimidating that you just feel like, okay, I will try this out, and I try this out, and then their accounts get suspended or listings get suspended. Sourcing is also pretty much demanded, but the highest ones are definitely full service agencies and suspension services. And there's definitely a rise in people looking for FBA brokers and acquisition companies. So we just added this category, I think, a week ago. And there's a podcast episode coming out next week with like this huge acquisition company. And I mean, you guys know Thrasio is just exploding right now. People buying and selling Amazon businesses.
Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made there.
Yes.
But it's interesting, the suspension and the black hat tactics, particularly because I feel like maybe it's just the content that I see, but everyone tries to talk about this hack. And it's like the top 10 hacks for Amazon. And then when you read it, all they talk about are black hat tactics. No one really talks about like, hey, this could happen if you try these black hat tactics out. But for the full service agencies, does it matter where those agencies are based out of and where you're selling? Or is it like you can hire one that's based in Germany, but you're selling in Amazon US?
I always recommend using local service providers for basically everything. It starts with like the text that you put in your listings and images, because there are so many cultural differences. Or one of my favorite examples is even if you say, okay, as a US seller, I will start selling on Amazon Europe, and you start with UK because it's easy. It's both English speaking countries, but you still have to do individual keyword research, for example, because the words that people are using, like pants or trousers, that it's so different. So you have to, I don't know if that's a word, but like localize everything anyway. So when we focus a lot on expansion, like we help companies expand from one market to the others. So when an US seller comes to us and he says he's looking for a full service agency, we will particularly choose one who has experience in managing Amazon on all European marketplaces, for example. But I would never suggest an US seller to choose an US agency in order to sell on Amazon Europe, because there are so many particularities. And it's even more here when you have like Germany and Italy. It's not just Europe, it's like one country. There's so many different countries and everything's so different. Also climate. So it could be that your product sells really well in Germany because it rains a lot. Maybe it's an umbrella. But in Spain, it won't, because they have like maybe 1/5 of raining days a year or something. So it's really the little things where I say people who know the language, the culture, the lifestyle of the people in these areas are like the best fit for the project.
And that was the question that I had, and you kind of just answered it there. But if Sermondo, or if you leave it to the end provider to give any kind of advice to the seller that wants to expand into other markets, because like the rain thing, I didn't know that it rains a lot in Germany. I know that it doesn't rain a lot in Italy. But I only knew that because I went there and I was like, wow, it's hot and it doesn't rain. But like I listened to a podcast with Lunch with Norm when I first started, and I don't remember her name, but his guest was from Australia, and she was like, tips for selling in Australia: we're not as patriotic as Americans are, so that's not going to work here. And our dogs are not our family. So the pet industry does very poorly here. And like, that's something that I never would have considered. So, so like, do you guys, it just in your experience, just being at Sermondo, do you offer any kind of like, hey, I know that you've got this, collar and bracelet combo situation for you and your dog that works well in the US. That's not going to work well here. Like, do you guys do anything like that? Any like advising?
I would say, like, as a standard, we never give out advice, and we don't provide consulting services ourselves. We really see us as like matchmakers. So I would rather have a professional agency look through their business plan or product idea or whatever. But if I see something and I would say, okay, this is never going to work, then yes, I would tell the seller. But I mean, as Germans, we're pretty open. I think you can basically sell everything here. Someone will buy it. So for Germany,
compared to the US, I don't know. You could sell literally anything though here. I don't know how it is like that, if it's that open in Germany as it is to the US. Lisa, have you ever been to Germany? Or Kristina, have you been to the US? You have, right? Yeah.
New York and Boston.
Would you say
New York and where? Sorry.
Boston.
And Boston. Okay, I thought you said New York and Austin, Texas. Like, those are two different like sides of the spectrum.
I was gonna say that would be a long road trip to make.
Very long road trip.
Would you say Germany is as large of a consumer market as the US though?
No, I don't think that's even possible, like population wise. But
population wise, but like it's
like purchase power is really strong here.
Okay.
And even I don't know why, but everyone keeps hating on Amazon, like, oh, they're destroying the brick and mortar stores. Like they were even like, there was this politician, it was just 2 weeks back, who said, yeah, he thinks that like online marketplaces such as eBay or Amazon should pay 25% taxes instead of 19, just to protect the brick and mortar stores like in the cities. But I think, okay, but it's not Amazon's fault that the others are not adapting. But yeah, somehow everyone's always saying like, oh, Amazon is so bad. It's like pure capitalism, but Amazon keeps growing and growing. And I also have people like this in my family, and I see an Amazon package every once in a while. I'm like, okay, but if you're the one ordering it, you're kind of supporting it. So everyone loves Amazon here, or not everyone, but a lot of people do. It's pretty common to order on Amazon, and people just have the money to do so. So now with Brexit, I mean, as I said, I would never give advice, but now that there's Brexit, if you want to start on a European marketplace, it should be Germany. My opinion. Not professional advice. Not liable.
Professional advice. And so how is that handled though? Because I know Amazon used to have a multi-country fulfillment where you could bring items into Germany and then you could fill into the UK and into France. And I know a lot of companies that I spoke with, they would start in Germany. That would be where they would start, and then they would just ship everything to the UK. How has Brexit really complicated that? I imagine it's almost impossible to ship there.
Actually, we had a lot of inquiries from sellers who just pulled out of the UK market because it gets too expensive for them. Now there are additional tolls. It's a lot more bureaucracy involved, a lot of more paperwork. But if you sell in European marketplaces, except the UK, then you can still use EFN and so on. So that shouldn't be a problem. I would just maybe in the future see it as more separated from each other. So there will be like Amazon EU and Amazon UK. Unfortunately, that's what they wanted.
Yeah. And then do you see Zalando expanding off of just Amazon? And the only reason that I ask this is because in the US, and this is how ignorant I am as an American, I don't know if Walmart is outside of the US. Like, are there Walmarts in Germany?
Nope. But I know Walmart.
Yeah, but it's so prominent here, and they're making this entrance into this marketplace, and they're starting to bring on new 3PL sellers. Do you see Zalando? And I imagine service providers are going to start emerging and sort of doing this cross e-commerce between Amazon plus Walmart plus Shopify plus all these other e-commerce platforms. Do you see Zalando evolving into that, or is it just going to purely stay with Amazon?
I think for now, and probably for the next at least 3 to 5 years, we will stick to Amazon, because I think in the whole Amazon ecosystem, there are so many specific things that sellers have to consider, that it's such a science in itself, that we think it makes more sense to concentrate on that first. But obviously, we already have a lot of service providers who also offer their services for Walmart or eBay. And I mean, because I know them so well and I have all of my notes in our CRM and stuff, when a seller says, hey, I'm selling on Amazon US and Walmart and eBay, and I need an agency to manage all of these, then I already know, like, okay, we have this agency here who can do like this multi-channel approach in a really good way. But like from a marketing standpoint, content standpoint, we will definitely stick to Amazon for now.
Okay. And then with Amazon sellers, is there a particular Amazon seller that would benefit using Zalando more than any other one? Like, I know you mentioned that if there's a company that just doesn't want to deal with Amazon, but they know they have to be on there, that sounds to me like that's a pretty big company. They have an established brand, and they just know that is a chunk of the pie that they have to get in. But is it, a brand new Amazon seller would benefit from it, or an established business, or 10-year established brands?
I would say, without I'm trying to not sound cocky, but I would say all of them. Okay. Because we also have service providers who specialize in working with beginners. We have agencies who specialize in working with brands that make over 250K a month, for example. So for every size of a brand, for every type of seller, it doesn't matter if you're doing FBA or not, if you're a seller or vendor, in like 99% of the cases, we already have a solution provider in our network. And if you come to us with something that can't be handled by one of our network partners, I will reach out to our network, ask for recommendations, talk to those recommendations, and eventually put them in touch.
Yeah, I see you on LinkedIn. Definitely, just like, I think it was a 3PL in Canada not too long ago, or it was a 3PL somewhere, and you were just looking for them. And I guess this is kind of what we were talking about with the networking and how you just kind of put yourself out there, similar to how Lisa puts herself out there, which I commend both of you for. I'm trying to be a part of that now. So I'm trying to.
I will just tag you everywhere.
Yeah, just tag me, comment me. But no, that's That's something that I don't know too many other companies would do when it comes to like, hey, we don't have someone for you, but we're going to find someone for you.
Yeah, and I
Would you
also
do
like I don't care if this is someone like we now had a seller from I think it was Bulgaria, and he was selling in the US and he needed insurance in the US, but the US company said like we can insure you because you're in Bulgaria. The Bulgarian insurance companies were like, okay, but well you're selling in the US, so we can insure you there. And he didn't have a lot of revenue, like because people can choose if they do like between 0 and 5,000, 5,000 to 15,000, 15,000 to, and so on. And he was in the lowest range, but that doesn't stop me from trying to help this person. So I would never reject an inquiry from a seller just because he's not established yet. Like if this person needs help and I think that we can help them or someone in my network can, then I will like hunt someone down, get them on the phone and say, hey, you should speak to this person because they have this and this problem. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's where do you think that stems from? Does Tobias, I imagine, Tobias being of the founder of the company, he's probably like, look, Kristina, you have to focus on the 15 to 30,000, or does he kind of just let you take full reign and just, because that seems like it's something that comes from the heart more than anything. That's something where you are willing to put your time, your effort while you're working with, a young and emerging company, and you would help any company of any size. Does Tobias ever push you down?
No, actually, we were talking about getting leads or inquiries that are not really relevant to what we're doing. And obviously, the more we grow, the more irrelevant messages we receive. But we were talking about this, and it was a conversation about scaling and where you have to like apply the 80-20 rule. But you also, I think you always have to have like those foundational beliefs in your company and like certain values. And I said, this is a non-negotiable. I can
Negotiable.
Okay, what you said. Value for our company, that we will help even the smallest sellers. I mean, obviously, we don't get like the return on investment is like in the negative, basically, because I'm spending time on something that I don't get anything in return. But I think that a lot of small actions that you do can build up to bigger things, because I don't know, maybe the seller will get his insurance, become really, really big, and then come back and ask for another service, or will recommend Sermondo to a friend of his who owns a big company. You can never know what like those small actions that you do in life can like cause later on. So yeah, that's just I know it's not really economical in that sense, but I just don't care.
but it makes sense, and it's funny because like I feel like I'm talking to two Francois, because he does the same exact thing and has the same
I know.
mentality. Like like we share an office, I think everybody can tell, and he will be on an onboarding call with a seller that 5 minutes in, I will hear him say, unfortunately, we can't help because of reason XYZ. And he's still on the phone an hour later, just answering any questions that they have, because he's like, yeah, like, what if they end up doing well and then they come back? Or what if they tell somebody else? Or what if we just had a good conversation? It's like, I get it. It makes sense. And I do think that's important. And I personally love that culture and that mindset and mentality, especially when you're first starting out. That's really important to do. But I was curious, like, as you guys are continuing to grow and scale, if that's going to be something where maybe you shift the audience or the sample that you're working with. But yeah, shaking your head. There's no intention of that.
I mean, obviously,
I love it.
Obviously, I get more excited about a lead when this company is already making like millions, because then it's super exciting because sometimes I'm not just connecting them after talking with them by email, but when it's a really big company that has a lot of different like construction sites in their project plan. They're like, okay, let's jump on a call because this saves both of us time instead of just like going back and forth via email. And obviously, it's more exciting to talk to a multi-million-dollar company. But I think for a seller who's just starting out, like everything's so intimidating and so new. Everything's threatening. I think you have like 5,000 question marks in your head. I mean, I've never been an Amazon seller myself, and I'm really open about that. I just helped Toby with his Amazon business. And by helping, I mean, I picked and packed the parcels and brought them to DHL, but that wasn't. So I was logistics manager. Let's put it that way.
I love it.
But
Write your own title, write your own ticket.
I will
I
put
am
that in my CV.
Yes, I'm the producer of this podcast. Nobody's gonna check me. I'm good.
No, then obviously I had to learn so much about Amazon, all the things that I didn't know before, just for producing content for our website. So let's take Amazon SEO for an example. When I first read about it, I was like, oh my God, this is so much information. How will I ever process this? And this is just a teeny tiny part of being an Amazon seller. So I think if you just give someone the feeling like, hey, it's going to be okay. I know you didn't find an insurance company yet, but I'm here and I will ask people if they can help you, like, chill out. Everything's going to be okay. That maybe it makes their week. Maybe it makes their month. Maybe he says, I don't care what this girl is writing, but I don't know. I just feel good doing it, even though we don't make money on that. And also, I have to say one thing, Francois, you're insane when I see your Facebook comments sometimes. It's like a novel. Like there's a seller really asking like where to source. Like this is like the whole question. This is like the person didn't even put that much effort in their question. And then Francois is like, this is a really good question. So you have a few opportunities. First of all, think about who's your customer. And then there's like this long of a comment, and you know it's not copy paste because it's so personalized. I'm like, Jesus, man, you can't help everyone, but apparently you can. So.
Those are the nighttime thoughts that run through my head, and I know when you first started out, we talked a lot about the Facebook groups, and that they do have a ton of value, not just for like the service providers, but for a lot of the sellers.
Yeah.
And I think the main reason that I even do that, and I'll spend like 30-40 minutes on just one post. And then I'll message our team and I'll say, hey, look, what's going on with logistics right now from, let's say, Shenzhen to the Savannah port? Is it really this expensive? What's the cost per kilogram? Why is it this expensive? Because there's thousands of people part of those groups, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's something where even if that one person doesn't find value, I think someone else is going to find value.
Yeah.
Could be the brand new Amazon seller, could be the one that's been in business for a year and has 5 SKUs. Could be the one that's selling millions of dollars and just a team member part of that company. So I definitely appreciate that you see those. I appreciate someone sees them.
I shake my head and then I like.
But I definitely appreciate that.
Whatever your salary is, they should double it for sure. Putting in all these extra effort.
You hear that, Schwan? No, I think very similar to you. I love to do out of the kindness of my heart, just because it is. We know so much information, right? And Lisa has a bunch of marketing information she shares with me, and she'll spend time before or after teaching me that stuff. So I love that we could all just sort of give it out for free. Why not? Why charge for it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to make $9,000 off a course, but which
could, though.
You could. I'm sure we both could.
You could.
But I have a pretty strong stance when it comes to courses, and I think we'll have some people on here that will disagree with me, and some that would agree with me. And I hope to have some coaches on here that have their own courses and can change my mind. But for the time being, it's stuck to where it is. I think a lot of courses are kind of full of bullshit, and they.
Can I jump in on that for a second?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I started doing something like 1.5 years back, because obviously everything that you need to know is on the internet for free somewhere. But it can be super overwhelming. Let's take search engine optimization on Google, for example. You have a website and you're like, okay, I want to be good at this. Where do I start, And then it can be like really hard to like navigate through all the content. So what I do is I go on like course websites like Udemy, and I just see the structure of the course and how it's built up, and then I basically write down all the chapter titles, and then I just like collect my own content from like random blogs. But then you have like a structure, and you have the things like building up on each other without having to pay for a, as you said, 9,000 euro Amazon course with information you can find on YouTube. So
that is
but
genius.
The money I could have saved on my 2 cents.
but I think there are good courses, and some people like, I think a course is always valuable if the person who created it can also like give value along the way, who just not recorded it once without giving too much thought, basically just copying off another another course. But I don't know, Kevin Kim, for example, like he offers support calls. So when you're in the course and you have questions, you can write it down and then ask him directly. Like that's value for me. But with someone talking about Amazon SEO for an hour, like the same things that you can find on YouTube, better save that money and spend it on more inventory, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I guess I need to change my stance on it. I 100% keep my stance on the courses that don't provide any added value except for recordings.
Yes.
I think a lot of those are bullshit. But when it comes to the courses that come with like a mastermind group, that is completely invaluable information because
That's
you
true.
get firsthand knowledge, you get real world experiences, and it's not cookie cutter. I think anything that is cookie cutter and that they say, and the reason that I say this is because we always hear them in specific courses in Australia and in the US. They say, well, hey, send your supplier this list of 50 questions and have them sign this 50-page triple-1 agreement, which for those of you that don't know, it's a non-use, non-disclose, non-circumvent. And just tell them that you need a few of the specifications without telling them your design, your actual idea. I'm like, none of that makes sense because no real factory for a new Amazon seller is going to answer 50 questions, and they're not going to have their legal team read through a 111 agreement that is probably not enforceable anyways. So what you're going to end up doing is going on Alibaba and sending these to trade agents that have standard answers because they've gotten the same form 50 times and that are going to sign it because they don't care if there's any litigation that's going to be involved with it. That's mainly why I think the courses are bullshit. But when it comes to the masterminds and the one-on-ones, 100% agree. I do think that that's bits of information that you can't get anywhere else.
And also usually you have like the support group of other course members that you don't really have when you try to do everything on your own. So you can discuss ideas and get feedback on a lot. Like I love, for example, Sharon Evan. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Yeah.
But she absolutely gold. She put Evan. She put so much free content out there. It's insane. Her YouTube channel and her Facebook groups. And what I really like about her community is that they always help each other out, you know? So you feel like even if you're a seller in Austin, Texas, and the other person is in Boston somewhere, you feel connected with them and you have like a platform to communicate and like jungle around with ideas. So I think that's really good.
Yeah. I mean, the Amazon community itself is just insane. I mean, I've never seen so many businesses actually try to help other businesses. And again, this is why I love Sermondo, because it connects and it really brings this community together where they can go to a website, they could see, hey, okay, you know, these certain sellers, again, going back to the reviews, someone put in so much effort to actually leave this review, and Sermondo posted this review that I'm going to take this seriously. And I'm going to use, you know, this full service agency based in Germany because Kristina recommended me to them. And it's a lot of what you just don't find in any other business. You don't find that in, I don't know, producers or in marketing agencies, just in their own communities. But in Amazon, it's something I've never seen. 20, 30,000 people part of these single Facebook groups.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's my bit on that. But I did want to, because we were talking about it a little bit earlier, about the direction of Sermondo. And I know you said you have 400 service providers, but what is this outlook? What do you guys want to achieve? Is there like a mission or a goal or anything that you really want to get to, and you can sit back and you could say, I'm happy with what I just did at Sermondo.
It's a goal, but I don't think I don't think you can ever reach it, which is a good motivation. And that is, I want to have a service provider for every single problem you can think of in every country, at least where Amazon is available, that can help sellers. So I never have to reach out to my network again and say, hey, does someone have a recommendation for a photography service in Japan? But we just have them. The problem is that everything's expanding the whole time. And I don't know, videography is now getting really big on Amazon now that you can like add videos to your product listing. So this is something we have to work on. Like, okay, no, we have to get all the videographers and so on. So because it's always expanding, I think it's basically a goal that is not really attainable, but at least want to keep it at a level of like 90% that we have everything covered. And then I can sleep at night, not thinking, oh, damn, I didn't find anyone for that person.
The real things that keep you up at night.
Yeah, that's actually that's not true. Like when I close my eyes, I sleep for 8 hours straight. I don't think about anything. But
See, I'm a 5 to 6 hour person, and
oh, really? Oh my god, that sounds like my
I can
nightmare.
thrive off of that. But at the same time, if I get like 10 minutes too much, I am the worst person to be around for the rest of the day.
Really?
I don't want to answer questions. I don't want to. I want to look at my screen, and that's it. So,
Oh no, I need 8 hours and then 3 coffees in the morning, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, I'm an 8-hour person too, but I've only been getting like 6 or 7, and I'm trying so hard to not yawn right now.
I gotta say, it's hard. It's hard to maintain that 8-hour level. Now, I mean, I deleted my Instagram and basically all my social media except like Facebook, where I still connect with clients. But I downloaded TikTok. I don't upload on there. I don't follow any.
Worst idea ever.
Like when I'm doing cardio in the morning, I'm just like scrolling through TikTok. And sometimes at night, it's like, I don't know, 10:30. I'm like, okay, I will get up. It's 6:30, so now it's 8 hours of sleep. Just watch one more TikTok, and then suddenly it's like way after midnight, and I'm like, damn it! No, I only get 6 hours in the whole next day.
Yep.
Messed up.
There's a trick. You go into your settings, and I just put this in. You go into your settings though, and you can set a time limit for TikTok. In TikTok, you can set your own time limit. Yeah, but in TikTok, you could set your own time limit. You can set it to an hour and a half.
But can you, when it pops up, can you say like ignore?
Yeah, that's only But the one in TikTok is worse. And the one in TikTok is you go and you put in a passcode that they make you put in when you first create it. So I'm like, the only way this would actually work is if I gave someone else the passcode, and I would have to text them. And then this is almost like, going into like an intervention. I'm like, this is embarrassing. I just need to get off of TikTok. I don't need these 3 hours of mindless scrolling.
Like the algorithm is so good. It feels like an addiction. Like
it does.
No, like you like 3 videos, and this algorithm knows you better than your own mother, and you're just. Oh yeah.
But hey, we are coming up at the top of the hour already. Somehow, after talking so much,
I know.
It feels like 5 minutes. Yeah.
But I feel like we covered a lot of topics that personally I love. Again, I've always been a strong advocate for Sermondo, and I have said it, I think, 5 times in this podcast alone. It's something I'm always going to stick true to as long as you guys don't change your model up. I think this is something that every industry should have. I love that you guys are doing it for Amazon specifically. It's something that's never going to really change. I mean, with Amazon Live and new marketing tactics that they have, it's always going to be a changing landscape. So I love that you guys are continuously just finding new ways to grow. So yeah, anywhere that you see me, I will be advocating Sermondo. We can clip this. Sermondo is the best that anyone can go to for any Amazon service provider. We are personally on Sermondo also, so make sure you check us out there. I know you guys included a search bar also, so it's pretty easy to navigate and find all these different service providers.
It really is.
Yeah.
I've hopped on there to look for stuff a couple of times to answer questions for folks in the Facebook groups, and I'm like, does Sermondo have somebody? And I just do my little search.
It's always worth a try. I mean, if not, just like Kristina said, they'll find someone, right? And
I was gonna say, like, if it's not on our Explore page, if you can't find it on our super cool map, then just use the matching service and say, "Hey, I need someone who only produces red candles in Vietnam." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. I'm gonna find that person. Like, whatever you want. Just try it. I can't promise anything, but I will try."
Love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kristina. I appreciate you spending an hour out of your day. I know it's late there, 6 hours ahead. We're coming up at almost 6 p.m. for you. So I know you got other things to do. Thank you again for joining us. And I hope that we can keep in touch. We can continue promoting Sermondo. Again, if you haven't checked it out, go to sermondo.com, find your service provider, whatever it is you need, PPC management, photography, videography, sourcing, logistics, 3PL. I mean, you name it, they have it on there. But if anyone wants to find anything else or reach out to you, Kristina, where can they find you?
You can always add me on LinkedIn, but I would say I'm a bit obsessed with my email. So if you write me an email, I will probably see it within 10 minutes. It's just Kristina@sermondo.com or support@sermondo.com, or just using the contact form on Sermondo. That's so much saying Sermondo. But yeah, anyway, our support is pretty good. And if I'm not answering it, then Toby is. So
Awesome. I was wondering if you were going to open it up to let her do her own plug. I was like, there's your brand ambassador right there.
Yeah, I guess Nora would love this. I do actually know about micro influencers and brand ambassadors now. Again, Sermondo, the best. I would promote it to anyone.
And I got to say, hands down, and I hope I don't offend any other podcast hosts from other podcasts I was on, but this was by far the most fun episode, recording, whatever you want to call it, I've been on so far.
You heard it here first. The funnest episode, the best podcast out there, I think is what Kristina said, not to put words in her mouth. No, I appreciate that, Kristina. We will definitely hope to have you on again. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.